And looking at what the Fed may do in the future, they said that they may raise rates about 3 times. Do you still see that bullish for gold? Because normally when rates rise, that's bearish for gold and silver.
That's kind of the consensus, but it's actually not necessarily true. If you go back, and December 2015 is the first example. They did raise rates a few times, and the metals continued to rally. And what matters is not nominal rates. What matters is real rates. And as long as inflation is running hotter than nominal rates, that's still negative real rates, and that's rocket fuel for gold. So I don't see that as a threat. And then can they continue to raise rates and actually normalize them? No, I don't believe that's possible. I don't believe that's mathematically possible, because historically a normal average interest rate over the past several decades would be around 5-6%. And our national debt is $30 trillion. We're approaching $30 trillion. So a 5% interest rate on $30 trillion would be $1.5 trillion a year in interest expenses. That just can't happen. The math doesn't work. There's not enough tax revenue to cover that. And I read a statistic that last year, the Fed bought 55% of treasuries that were issued. Well, if they're going to scale back their taper, who's going to buy this debt? Obviously, for anyone to even consider it, the rates are going to have to rise. And that's just untenable with our debt situation. It's not like in 1980 where they can raise rates, because it would consume all of the federal tax receipts. So that's the situation we're in. There's no solution. So I don't think they can continue to raise rates, but they might try it a few times.
In addition to putting a financial burden on the U.S. with all of its debt, raising rates, others have also argued that would just crash the stock market if the Fed was to aggressively raise rates.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of my baseline scenario. And, David Brady, who writes for our letter, thinks something similar, where, yeah, they may try and tighten a little bit, but that's probably going to weigh heavily on stocks. And, I try and avoid terms like crash, but let's just say a 20% pullback in general equities. I don't think the Fed's going to stand by and continue to tighten if the stock market falls by 20%. And they would likely reverse course on their taper and any talk of raising interest rates in 2022. And, that would just be rocket fuel for the metals. I think that's when we see the big move. When the Fed reverses course, I think that's when you start to see, $2,300, $2,400 gold, and we move towards $50 silver, and that's possible in 2022.
And it seems like, and I'm hearing this from a lot of people, that, yeah, even though the Fed is attempting to curb inflation, it's not going to happen. We're going to see inflation for quite some time going forward.
I feel like there's this debate between inflationists and deflationists. And, often two intelligent analysts can be both correct, just in different time frames. So I think almost all the people in our community, even the people who highlight the deflationary risk, would agree that the overall trend is towards, much bigger inflation. However, we're going to see deflationary impulses along the way. And, from my perspective, that creates opportunities for people with cash to buy metals and mining stocks on sale.
Definitely. And then your outlook for the gold, silver, and mining stocks.
I think we grind higher in the first quarter of 2022, first half of 2022. But I think the big moves come when the Fed reverses course. I think that's inevitable. It's just a matter of when. And that could be in the back half of 2022. But of course, whenever you give a projection, no one's perfect. So I don't want to be like, hey, this is my exact forecast and this is my prediction, exactly what's going to happen. But that's my baseline scenario. As we start to move higher, first half of 2022, eventually the Fed reverses course. And that's when we see, the move towards $50 silver, $2,500 gold that we've all been waiting for.
Your perspective on the U.S. dollar recently?
Yeah, we broke out above a key resistance level, rallied up to about 96.80, if I remember right, got overbought, technically stretched. And what we've been telling our members is look for a back test of that breakout level around 94.65. If that support level holds, we could possibly see one more push higher in the dollar. However, if that support fails, I think that would mark a trend reversal and we'd be looking for lower lows in the dollar. Regardless, over the longer term, we're bearish on the dollar, but over the short term, we're going to have to see how that 94.65 level holds. I'm bearish on the stock market, but what's the saying? Markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. So could the stock market continue to go higher? Yeah, that's totally possible. However, I don't personally want exposure to general equities at these kind of valuations. But I think just like the metals, the worst case scenario was already priced in. Or close to. That's why we had a sell-off in the stock market beforehand, and then it rallied since.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dan.